Hey kids, it's time for our weekly devotion for the big idea. Last week we talked about a guy named Joseph, and we talked about how he was in Egypt, how he was sold by his brothers into slavery into Egypt, and how he overcame those things and how he trusted God. And this week we're going to talk about a guy named Moses, who you're probably really familiar with. And I want to encourage you, even though we're doing this devotion today, to make sure and ask your parents questions about what else is going on in the story, because we're only covering a little small part of each story, okay? So the first guy we're going to draw is this guy right here who's looking at me, and I'm kind of scared. Yeah, okay, anyway. I don't know why I'm so scared, because I drew this guy. So this is a picture of Pharaoh we did last week. So all you do for to draw this picture is you draw the letter F, and then you draw it backwards, and then you kind of add the other aspects of his face. Okay. So again, what you can do here is you can pause the camera or the video and draw the picture and come back to the story. But here's what's going on. So last week Joseph was in Egypt, and after a good bit of time passed, the Israelites were really growing in number, and this bothered Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and they began to treat the Israelites very harshly. And so this leads us to our next picture. This is, I'll tell you what, it's supposed to be Moses. It looks like a sponge with hair. Anyway, but you get the point. So let me tell you what's going on. It's supposed to be baby Moses in a basket. But just bear with me, okay? If it helps you remember, it's all that matters. So Pharaoh actually passed a law where all the Israelite boys that were that were born, okay, all the Israelite babies that were born, if they were boys, they were supposed to be killed, okay? Because he was so worried about the Israelites growing in number that they wanted to try to take care of it somehow. And so what Moses' mother did, she refused, so she put him in a basket that apparently looks like a sponge, and sent him down the river. And of all the people that could have found him was Pharaoh's daughter. So you've got Pharaoh, who set out this law to kill all the boys of Israel that were born, and then Pharaoh's daughter, of all people, found him and raised him. So again, we're leaving out a whole lot of stuff here about Moses' life. So this is one of those spots where you can ask your parents what happened to Moses. But basically, Moses grew up, and he was living elsewhere. And then something really cool happened. He heard God speaking in a bush, but the bush was on fire, okay? And that's what this is. So all you're doing here is you're drawing some threes kind of in a circle, and then M's in a circle. So this is a bush that's on fire. So what's interesting about the bush in this story is that it was burning, it was on fire, but it wasn't like withering up. So like if you were to, see a leaf catch on fire, or like when we burn palm branches here at our church for Ash Wednesday and things like that, they shrivel up and they turn to ash. But this bush wasn't doing that. So here's what was going on here. God spoke to Moses through this burning bush, and he told Moses, hey, I want you to go back to Egypt so that I can use you and your brother Aaron to set my people free. Okay, and so now we're going to come back to this side of our board here, and this is picture number 4. This is supposed to be a frog. Again, I'm not an artist. Bear with me, okay? But all you do here is you draw like the letter B, and then you do it backwards, and then you add his limbs and his eyeballs, okay? So here's what's going on here. So God used these things called plagues to try to get the attention of Pharaoh. And so one of those, for example, was a bunch of frogs, like frogs everywhere. Now, if you love animals, you might be thinking, well, that's adorable. But if there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and they were everywhere you went, and they're slimy and gooey and gross, you might think differently. So eventually, God sent so many plagues that Pharaoh decided to let the Israelites go. And that leads us to our next picture. And all you're doing here is you're drawing like two shapes, like little C's right here. And then you're drawing little just upside down U's, like little horseshoes. And you do one with a stick, because that's Moses leading his people. So what this picture is supposed to be is Moses leading people through the Red Sea. So once Moses led the people out of Egypt, what happened is that they came to this place called the Red Sea, and they didn't know how they're going to get through, and so they didn't know what to do. And so the Egyptian army was coming, and God did something really cool. All throughout the night, the waves of the Red Sea, the water began to part from one side to the other. And so the Israelites and Moses walked through the Red Sea, and when the Egyptians tried to follow, the sea collapsed on them, and God had protected Israel. And so later on, this is our last picture for this week. You're just drawing these little shapes right here. You just draw like a big M, like it's like a McDonald's. And you draw a line at the bottom, and then you just do some squiggly lines all around it. And then you just draw the number 10, because do you have any guesses what this might stand for? The 10 best things to eat at McDonald's, right? No, it's the 10 Commandments, silly. Didn't you know that? Hello? Anyway, so God gave the people, he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And here's what's so important about the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments ultimately showed the people what it looked like to follow God, and it showed them what it meant to love God and to love others. Okay, so for example, love God with all of don't put any other gods before Yahweh. Don't take God's name in vain. These are ways that Israel was to show that they loved God. And then the other commandments, like honoring your father and mother, don't kill, don't steal, these were commandments that were about how to deal with other people. So God ultimately he set Israel free, but he didn't set them free to just keep to themselves. He wanted them to learn what it looked like to love him, and what it looked like to love not just the other Israelites, but the world around them. Okay? So, again, so many great things we can learn here from this story, but ultimately, I want you to hear is that God, the ultimate thing we can do in this life is to love God first, and then love others in a way that honors him. And so, please send me your pictures. Let me see your beautiful drawings. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you next week.